brains behind it. Steve Jobs was the business behind it. So, yes. Steve Wozniak was actually pushed out by Steve Jobs. And now he makes educational software. He's a brilliant educational software writer. He's doing quite well for himself, and he did make money at Apple, but he certainly did not make the billions that Steve Jobs did. But anyway, okay. So we're back. We're recording. It looks like we've got 29 seconds of recording now. We're good. Let's see if this will start here. Okay, what can you see there in Broken Bow? Can you see my computer with this beautiful Mid-Plains Community College thing on it? Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so now we're ready to get started. But before we do anything for the class, I want to talk about you people and me people. I'll start with myself, and then we'll introduce ourselves to each other and talk a little bit about what we want to get out of this class. This is going to help us to decide which direction this class is going to go. We're going to cover the material one way or the other, but how we cover the material is kind of dictated a little bit, at least, by what you're interested in. So my name is Jared Daly. I was born and raised in Silicon Valley, about pretty much across the street from where Apple Computer was invented, and about the same time Apple Computer was invented, I was born. My father is a scientist and engineer, and my two older brothers are engineers. And my younger sister is a mathematician, and my younger brother is an engineer, and my other younger brother is a musician. Black of the family. And I went to school at Brigham Young University. I started my first freshman year in 1992, and I decided I didn't like college very much, so I left, and I started driving trucks and coaching swimming for a living, and I was a swimmer in high school. And coached swimming through a few great seasons in California and drove trucks through not so great seasons. Then I decided I was going to get married and decided I needed an education. I was going to get married and have a family. Driving trucks wasn't going to cut it. Neither was coaching swimming. So I went back to BYU, which is in Utah, and I studied physics until 2000. When did I finish there? 2005. I got 2 degrees there. My degrees are in X-ray physics and atomic physics, which aren't as cool as they sound, but are kind of cool still. Got to do work with a lot of lasers in a dark laboratory, shooting things. And we had one laser that could punch a hole through a quarter. It was pretty powerful. It was a lot of fun. And we actually did that one day, but we actually punched a hole through my professor's shirt as well. Several holes, in fact. He walked through the laser on that. But anyway, it was a great experience going to school, because the reason that I went into physics was to learn as much as I could about nature and the universe, and physics really allows you to do that. There's no science like it that is just so broad. And from physics, you can go and study anything. Physics is being used across the spectrum, from the medical sciences to the biological sciences to astronomy to particle physics and to engineering, and everywhere. Physics is being used everywhere these days. And so that was the thing that really drew me in. I really loved it so much. But it wasn't until I was almost done with graduate school. I was actually working on a PhD, and I was getting tired of school, as you can imagine. I'd been there for 8 years. And I got a job offer to teach at a local community college. And so I took it. I said, it's only a semester. I'm going to just go teach for a semester and come back and finish my PhD. Never went back. I loved it so much. And the reason I loved it is because I get to work with students, and it's not huge classrooms, it's small classrooms, and we get to know each other, and we get to do cool stuff, and I get to see you guys discover this stuff and enjoy it as much as I did, and help you to start your careers in your education. I really enjoy it a lot. It also allows me a lot of freedom to do lots of cool stuff. My physics professor in graduate school said the reason that I became a physicist is because physicists have the coolest toys, and we really do. At the end of this summer in September, I will be receiving a industrial professional 3D printer. I have a small desktop 3D printer, which is fun and cool and everything else. But this new one that I'm getting is so far beyond. It's like Star Trek technology. It's so cool. You can make things that have moving parts. Like I could print an entire miniature model of an engine where all the parts moved right out of the printer. I wouldn't have to assemble anything. That's how cool, and it prints in color. So it's really a really cool device. Hopefully in the next week or two I'll be going out to California to be trained on it. But it's just it's such a cool thing to study. And engineering is right there with it. Engineering and physics are kind of like they're connected at the hip. It's not really a marriage in most states, but some states will probably allow it soon. So it's a really cool thing. Physics and engineering. Physicists study the why and the how, and the engineers take that all and make something with it, and do something with it, right? They make it useful. And so it's just this constant cycle of discovery and invention, and discovery and application, discovery and make it useful. I love it. I have a wife and 6 kids. Like I said, my oldest is in college, and I have 2 at the high school here in town. I got 1 at the Madison Middle School and 1 at McDonald Elementary, and we're crazy busy all the time. My wife is busier than I am, but we're crazy busy with kids all the time. What else about me? I love volleyball. Anybody in here like sports? What sports do you like?
Volleyball.
What's that?
Volleyball.
Volleyball, okay.
Volleyball.
All sports? Good. What's your sports do you like?
Watching or playing?
I don't care, either one. To me, they're the same, watching and playing.
I like watching football or kind of whatever is on at the time throughout the year.
Yeah.
I like playing probably frisbee and broomball.
Frisbee as in ultimate frisbee or frisbee golf or?
Both and broomball.
Oh. I played a lot of ultimate frisbee growing up and a lot of frisbee golf before frisbee golf courses were a thing. Our idea of frisbee golf was to go off into the redwood forest and say, hey, see that stump over there? Like 200 yards away? That looks like a par 5, and we'd throw frisbees off through the redwood forest and chase them down and lose them all the time. I've lost more frisbees than anybody's ever owned. But I played on campus too. BYU's campus is a huge campus, but it's all kind of in one part of the city. And so we'd say, okay, over there you have the religion building and there's a statue out front. If you can hit the statue on the chin, that's a par 4. You know, and we'd go throwing frisbees across campus and get in trouble. Oh, it was so much fun. But yeah, frisbee. Did you have a sport that you like?
Nope.
Not much.
Would not care if they existed.
Yeah, that's all right. Sports aren't the only thing, but I've always loved sports. And it's kind of weird because my parents are like not athletic sports people, and I was the only one of my family that really got involved with sports. So I was the black sheep in that way, where my other brother was the black sheep because he didn't follow science in there. But for anyone who's interested, I do play volleyball at the college on Thursday nights. We'll start up this week, and we have people from all over the community have been coming. We're hoping to get them all back because they've all been playing in the league in town here. So hopefully we'll get them all back out here to play. We have a lot of good volleyball fans. So if you're interested, you can come out on Thursday nights. Give me your email, and I'll send you a reminder. But anyway, that's me. Now I'm going to pass the baton here to someone else. Anybody else want to introduce yourselves? I'm not going to force you to, but who wants to introduce themselves? Yes, sir.
I'm Cole Kleino. I am still a junior in high school, but I'm taking some summer classes. I plan on getting a 2-year degree before I graduate high school, and I kind of had my life planned out for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And
where are you going to end up? Where's your life?
I plan on going to UNL and getting a software engineering degree and an engineering degree. I want to build my own technology and create the software for it.
Sweet. They have a pretty good software program out there. They have a nice computer department. I've been in their computer lab, and it's pretty intense. It's nice.
And yeah, I'm the black sheep of my family as well, where everybody there was athletic and did all their stuff. Me, I was big on technology and big on school.
All right, well, good. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So anyone else? Go ahead.
Andrew Ferris. I just graduated from North Platte High School.
Nice.
So graduated
You're familiar. Do I know you?
Yeah, I was in speech and debate with Tiger.
Okay, so my oldest son. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
graduated yesterday, start college today.
All right.
But did activities like band and speech and debate through high school, and I'm going to be going to UNL in the fall to be electrical engineering, but I'm also going to be part of the Jeffrey S. Rake School there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love music school.
What do they do there?
It's computer science and business management, but they take engineers too. There's not many of us.
They're
but
really selective.
Cool.
And like they have this huge, like,
Kaufman Center.
yeah, this like huge big screen TV and like movie chairs and stuff.
Cool.
Yep. So I'm going to be studying electrical engineering there, and nobody told me when I was signing up for classes at the beginning of my senior year that engineers need physics. So,
Physics is an essential part of engineering for sure.
yep. So that's why I'm here, to make sure I don't start off behind.
In fact, it's not uncommon for physicists who study physics through their 4 years to become engineers. That's the number one job that physicists get is engineer. My father is an astrophysicist by education, but he was actually an engineer by trade. That's actually what he did, was he designed things, he invented things, he had a dozen patents to his name. So that's not uncommon at all. And it's not uncommon for engineers to be working with physicists all the time. Like I said, it's very much a big relationship. And Packer will actually be in this class as well, except he has to be at school today, so he'll be here soon.
Yeah, I have fourth period with him.
Yeah, so he'll be here soon. He's got a couple of things to do before he comes out here, but he'll be in this class. And we do have one other that we're missing, but hopefully we'll get everybody to class. Anyone else? Here's one.
I'm Michelle Henry and best friends with Cole's sister. I'm going into my senior year of college, so it's funny I'm here, but I go to UNL, like I said, and then I was business, marketing, and info technology education, and so I decided to switch this summer to ag business. It would be, or not ag business, but ag education. So most of my classes switch over except for I needed physics. So that was the only class I did not get out of the way in high school.
Well, physics is needed in a lot of those things. You know, the agricultural sciences, they all have to take physics, and we often get graduate students actually from across the way needing physics.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's just one of those things. We're going to learn the basics of the universe, the basics of nature. And while you may not apply these things directly in agriculture or business or education, it's a really good idea to have a nice foundation. So hopefully we'll provide that for you. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Leslie Ossie. I am a junior at Hershey, and I'm mostly just taking this class because I love science and the nature, and also because I don't like my teacher at Hershey for physics, so.
Well, hopefully you'll like your new teacher.
What's your name again? I didn't quite catch
Yeah, I
it.
think
Leslie Ossie.
Leslie?
Leslie Osling?
Ossie.
Ossie.
Leslie Austin.
Excellent. Do you want to introduce yourself out there in Broken Bow, or you good to go? Can you hear us there? Hello? Oh, I think they froze. I think she's...
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody sits that still for that long.
I hate when this happens. Okay, time to start. Phone book.
I'm
Hang up.
sorry, but I already forgot your name. Not you. I know Leslie.
Ah!
Michelle Henry.
Michelle. Okay, thank you.
I didn't make it to your grad party. We had to invite my parents are friends with you.
The system is frozen.
Who are your parents?
Mike and Gladys Henry.
Oh, okay.
I guess I
Yeah.
didn't even know they were friends, but it's like, who's this? My parents were like, oh, that's, what's your dad's name?
Brian.
That's, that's Brian Ferris's son. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to shut this down and start again. I don't know if it's going to stop my recording or not. I love this system. It makes me happy.
Happy.
All right, let's try again. I'll move that to my...
I don't know why, but I love this projector so much, just because of manual. Go back, I mean.
Yeah, now they won't work because I turned them off and then I'm turning them back on and I'm turning them off. Nothing ever works when you want it to work around here. There is like some main power switch, but I can't remember which one it is. If this doesn't work this time, I'm just going to start flipping switches and see what happens.
That's how
Process of elimination.
Boys, how it works.
Yours, phone book. Broken bow, 103. Broken bow, 3 dial. Oh man, still not on. Oh, let's see. No switches. That's locked. Let's try all these switches. Those are lights. Those are lights. One of these used to be the power switch, but I think they may have unhooked it because I broke too many things. Okay. I grew up on the philosophy, you just keep turning it up until it breaks and then turn it down a little bit. Right?
Kind of the life hack that if your car is making a funny noise, just turn up your stereo until you can't hear it anymore.
Exactly. This is so broken. Help! Who do I call? It's a phone number. I had a phone here somewhere. Instructions for this room. This is like 20 pages long. There we go. Technical support, 3712. Hello?
Extra ring just means it's getting outsourced to India.
Oh, I had a call like that this
Calling
morning.
the MPCC help desk. The help desk hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m.
Wait. That's probably broken. They're trying to call me. Hey, the system's on. Hang on. Unknown caller. How do I accept call?
And just click on the call.
Man. Receive mode. Swap. That doesn't help. Transmit mode. Phone book. Broken bow. Did they stop calling me? Good. Now I call it. Oh, hello, we're connected again. We got it to work finally. Okay, so tell me what the last thing you heard was, because we didn't notice that you were frozen there until probably you were frozen for a few minutes. What was the last thing you heard us talk about? Okay, so you got into the middle of our introductions. So let's see. First name again?
Leslie.
Leslie also introduced herself, and she is from Hershey. And I was just asking you if you would like to introduce yourself, but I looked up and realized that you were frozen in one. You were staring at your computer and not moving at all. It was amazing. So would you like to introduce yourself? Softball. Okay. Sounds like a plan. Radiology, you got to have physics for sure. And unfortunately, don't you have to have two semesters of physics for radiology? Oh, radiography. I see. Okay. Oh, I see, okay. Well, we'll definitely cover some sonar in this semester. The second semester of this course covers a lot more of the radiology kind of stuff, which is very cool as well. But I actually considered going to graduate school for radiology research, physics radiology research. And one of the universities that I was looking at, I believe it was University of Virginia, and all of their faculty, instead of having pictures on their website, had MRIs of their brain, which was kind of cool.
Which one was smartest?
Yeah, you just had all these cross sections. You're like, is there some kind of correlation between brain size and shape and intelligence? All this stuff. It was pretty fun. Didn't end up going that direction. My undergraduate work was done in X-ray physics, so I thought I might continue that direction, but ended up going atomic instead. So excellent. I love baseball. I've never done much softball. I've played softball for fun before, but I'm a huge baseball fan. I love the San Francisco Giants. Born and raised watching them, so. What's that? The Royals, yeah.
As long as it's not the Yankees.
Exactly. Yeah, well, baseball is a fun sport. I've never been very good at baseball, but I do love the sport. Hello. Okay, so that's a lot of introductions. Thank you all for participating. I don't know what time is it. 4 o'clock. Okay. So let's get started talking about this class a little bit. What we're going to be doing, how we're going to be doing it. One of the first things I want to address is we are going to have about 9 or 10 labs to do together. Now, for you here in North Platte, we're going to try to meet all together as a group. We're scheduled here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Tuesday would most likely be the lab day, but we can schedule it for another day if we need to. Does the Tuesday time work for you at this time of day, or?
Would it be every week, or?
It would be 9 or 10 of the weeks. So this week we won't have a lab, but next week we probably will. So.
I am starting chemistry class on June 6th, and I have chemistry in the chemistry lab that day.
Chemistry on Tuesdays at the same time.
Well, I have chemistry Monday through Thursday, and then the labs are Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. Okay, so we do have one conflict there. Anybody else have a conflict?
I can make Tuesdays work. The only times it won't work is the week I'm going to be out of town for the national tournament, but then any day is shot, so.
Okay.
So,
Now, anytime that anyone's going to be gone, and I realize that summertime is that way, anytime you're going to be gone, these lectures will be recorded, and you can get on and you can watch them, and you can email me questions, you can call and ask questions, and you'll be able to keep up with the homework at your leisure online, because it's all going to be online. And so hopefully that won't cause any problems for anyone. And if you do need to come in and get some help, that's fine too. You just need to call me and tell me when you can come in, and we'll make it work. So I can come in and be here when you're available. So for our student in Broken Bow, I will probably be visiting Broken Bow in the next few days, and I will bring you, let's see, my physics kit. Yeah, I can bring you the equipment that you need out there by next week at the latest, so that you can do your labs out there, unless you really want to travel to North Platte. So. Most likely what I'll do is I'll probably come out there to Broken Bow on a day that we're supposed to have class, and I'll just teach the class from Broken Bow to North Platte that day. So probably Monday is my best guess for that. I might even do this Wednesday. I've got a trip to California. I'm trying to negotiate here for the next week or two, because I've got to go and see my 3D printer and get all excited about that. And then so once I figure out when I'm going to that, then I'll figure out when I'm going to come out to Broken Bow. And what I'll do is I'll provide you with the equipment and I'll provide you with some software, and you'll just do the experiments on your own for the most part. So we'll probably meet on the lab days, and I'll explain some things just in case you have any questions even over the TV system here. But besides that, you'll kind of just be independent. The labs are independent study anyway, so it's not a really big difference for her to be doing them on her own. You guys will be doing the labs on your own as well, or together in groups. I don't usually interact too much with the students when they're doing the labs. I try to let them figure them out on their own, because the learning experience of figuring out is just as important as completing them. So, did you have a question, Casey, on that? Okay, sounds good. Not seeing me is probably a good thing, but we'll definitely need you to see the computer eventually. So let's try this. Let's try to fix it this in. What are you seeing now there? You don't really want to. Nice. I'm telling you, you pay $25,000 for a computer system and you get what you pay for, right? This is just not working. I don't know what else I can do from this end but call the techs. I think I've got all the right buttons pushed. I'll keep pushing buttons if you want me to. Let's see here, what else can we do?
There it goes. You can kind of see it in that little.
Let's go here, output, input, PC, output, PC. No good. Input, let's input something else. Let's try to input the camera.
I think they're frozen again.
Ah, crap.
I think it was again.
Or they're doing, what's that, the mannequin challenge?
Yeah.
Oh man, this is so great. I love it. Can't hang up, I just got to power down the whole system.
So is our class gonna last 2.5 hours? Every Monday, Wednesday, and
No.
Tuesday?
No, the way the class will run is we will meet here together at, when is it, 3:30? 3:30 till 6, right? And we will cover the material as quickly as possible. We'll just kind of burn through it, do some examples, and then it will be time to do homework problems. And if at that time you have no questions, you're welcome to leave. Do you have a homework that you have to get to or a commitment?
Like sometimes I work all the time,
Sure.
so but it's for my parents, so
Okay.
I just wanted to try to not be gone as long as I can.
Yeah, sure. So it'll kind of just depend on how much help you want with your homework, and because we'll try to be done within an hour and a half to 2 hours every day. So we should be done by 5:30 every day. But I will stay until 6 if anyone has questions, or even later if we have to. And there will be questions. It's guaranteed.
Yeah.
This is a class where the homework is, and I'm not going to pull any punches. It's hard. It gets really hard. And it's not so much, that it's just, confusing as it is, just requires a lot of practice learning how to do it, learning how to solve problems that are complex, and learning how to use the things we're going to be learning in conjunction with the math that you already know. You know a lot of math skills already, or you wouldn't be in this class. But learning how to use those math skills together with physics concepts is a whole new thing. So I think it's safe to try to turn it on again. If these don't come down, the whole system doesn't turn on. It's something magical about the screens. All right, let's try this again. Broken bow, 103. Dial. Not yet. I didn't wait for the little life size icon to go away.
should we try to get, what was her name, Casey? Or-
Casey?
Yeah, should we try to get like her cell phone number so that when this
I've got it
crashes?
over here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when it crashes again?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, really the only thing to do is to shut down the whole system and start it from this end. Because if we're both trying to start it from both ends, then it doesn't initialize properly. It's just a pain in the butt. They're trying to replace it, but I don't know. I think they're crazy. I told them to just use Skype. They didn't listen to me. All you need is an internet connection and a decent computer, a camera, you're good to go. Come on now.
And with Skype now, you can record a video screen.
Well, you can do everything with Skype, and all there's like 20 different programs out there. And they're all free, and they're all online, and you know they're all working. And that's the big difference between this system and those systems. They work. This one just does not. Okay, so at least while we're waiting here, we have a couple of different options since we have one conflict for the lab. And those two options are, we can change everybody's lab time to a different day of the week and meet on a different day of the week, or that didn't work. Can you see me? I can't see you right now. Let's see. Yeah. Did you call me, I assume? It just... I can't answer from this end for some reason. I don't know why. I pushed all the buttons I could see and nothing worked, but I can call from this end. So if you want to hang up, I can call you. I was just about to, so... I don't know, maybe. Everybody hide your valuables. Big Brother's watching. So anyway, those are our two options. Did you want to say something else, Casey? Okay, so those are our two options. The three of you who are available Tuesday, would you prefer to keep it on Tuesday, or do you care one way or the other?
It don't matter to me.
You don't care? They don't care?
That sounds good.
You,
I don't really care. Like, when else would we go?
what day works for you for a lab?
Well, it depends on the time for Tuesday because my chemistry class is 10 to 11:30 and the lab ends at 1:45.
Oh, the lab would be at the same time as the class. So it'd be at 3:30. Because we're scheduled to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the Tuesday is the lab time.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I didn't specify that because I just wanted to make sure it worked for everybody. We could also make Wednesday the lab time, if that works for you better. So you don't have to have a super long day, but it doesn't really matter to me. Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor of Tuesday for the lab time?
So that would be like 3:30 to 6.
It'd be 3:30 to 5:30. It's usually, my labs are usually 2 hours. Anybody care one way or the other? Or?
Not really.
Let's go ahead and do Wednesdays for our lab time then.
Okay.
Let's make Wednesdays our lab time at the end of the week, and then we'll make Monday and Tuesday our lecture time. And then you don't have to have a super long day on Tuesdays. And you can just have a normally really long day. Okay? All right. Chemistry and physics, you must be crazy.
Well, it's the same teacher.
What's that?
I took chemistry with that teacher and didn't learn anything, so that's why I'm taking it.
I see. Okay.
So we'll be doing lectures today and tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll lecture today and tomorrow. We'll have discussions and we'll do a bunch of examples and we'll talk about weird things, and that's what we call a lecture. So yeah, today and tomorrow, and then Wednesdays we'll do our lab.
Okay.
We might even be able to fit in a lab this week if we do that, because doing a lab on the second day of class is kind of ridiculous. But we'll probably fit one in. We can fit one in on Wednesday because we'll have enough under our belt to get things going. So that'll be good. Which means I gotta get out to Broken Bow.
I am going to state tennis, which is on Thursday and Friday. So I'm going to be leaving after class on Wednesday, but I probably won't be able to come to class tomorrow because I have to go to practice.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, any day that you can't come to class, you probably should email me just so I know that you're not like missing class and forgetting class. Just email me and tell me. And then watch the video and do the coursework. Yes, sir.
And are the labs like every other week?
We'll do a lab pretty much almost every week, and it'll just be by, like on Monday, we'll talk about whether or not we'll have a lab that week.
So this week will not?
This week, I'm still kind of deciding. We'll think about that. Do you need to know right now?
No, I'm just making sure for my work.
Okay, so since it'll be during normal class time, we will probably still meet when we don't have a lab to do homework review and to get caught up on things.
Okay.
We'll meet whether or not we have a lab.
Okay.
Because we just need that extra time. Normally this class goes 15 weeks and takes all those 15 weeks. With 12 weeks, we really need to use all the time we can. So we'll still meet.
So I don't have to work, but I'm type A personality. So
Yep.
plan on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah,
from
Monday,
3:30
Tuesday,
to
Wednesday,
whenever.
we'll be here every week. But sometimes it'll be a lab, sometimes it'll be discussion and homework or whatever else. And if you do need to miss any days, don't worry about it. Just say, I gotta miss, send me an email, shoot me an email so I know what you're doing, and we'll make sure that those videos are up, okay? All right, now are we still connected to Broken Bow? How are we doing? Okay, we still can't see you guys. Yeah. Let me see if I can connect. I'm gonna do some things here and see again here. Last time I did this, everything ended, so can you see anything now? Still not? Let's wait just a second and see if it pops up here. It's not showing up here either. I don't know why. That's fine, yeah. You're more than welcome. You can actually take the lab materials to your home if you'd like, so that save you a trip in on days that we're actually doing labs, and that's fine with me. But just be aware, we will not have labs every single week. We'll kind of go as we we'll play it by ear a little bit so that we know what we need to do. Sometimes we're going to need to spend a little more time working on homework problems, working on learning things in the book, from the book or whatever, and sometimes we'll just be doing a lab. And it seems a little bit haphazard and crazy, but it's really the best way to run a class over the summer that is so packed full of stuff. We have so much stuff to cover. We need to be able to be a little bit flexible, especially with people leaving for different things and different activities. The summer is just a different time of year, so we're going to try to play it a little bit by ear and make it work. Okay, let's talk about, I do have a syllabus for this class. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Let's see if this computer, we don't have any visual on this end either, except in the back of the room. We could turn everybody around and look at the screen in the back of the room. But I do have a syllabus. I will send you the syllabus by email. And so the first thing we're going to do in this class officially is have a quiz. And it's a really simple quiz. The quiz is, what is your name? What is your email address? What is your cell phone number if you're willing to give it to me? Because if you are, then I'll use it to text you if I need to text you for some reason, because I know people will answer texts before they'll answer emails. So that's your quiz for today. So if you wouldn't mind opening up, you've all got a computer in front of you, so open up an email system or something and send me an email with your name. I'll have your email address if you send it from an email system. But
Do the Mid-Plains email or Gmail?
I don't care, whatever email system you use.
What's your email?
My email address is dailyj, DAILYJ, @mpcc.edu. And if you send me an email with your name and your email address and your, you don't have to put in your cell phone number, but if you don't mind giving me your cell phone number, then I will give you full credit for the quiz, first of all. And then I will send you a syllabus to your email. I try to go as paperless as possible in this class because we waste so much paper anyway, just writing down our problems as we're doing our work. But, so I will send you the syllabus and I'll send you the information you need to get started on things. But while you're doing that, I want to open up a web browser, and I'll have you all open up this web browser when you're done with your quiz too. I'm sorry?
Got it.
Okay. You may have heard, or you may not have heard, I don't really know, but you may have heard that we will not be requiring you to purchase a book for this course. But we will be using an online learning system, but also you don't have to purchase that. Isn't that great? The downside to this is you will be guinea pigs for this new system. This is a system I've used a lot for mathematics, but it's just barely been made available for physics. And so I'm one of the first teachers to be using it for physics, and kind of, you guys are my study group. So I want you to open up a web browser and go to myopenmath.com. myopenmath.com. And when you get there, on the right-hand side, you will register as a new student unless you've already registered at this website as a student. Then you can just sign in. But you'll register as a new student, and you'll enter a username, and you'll choose a password, and you'll put in your first and last name and your email address. Enter an email address that you'll actually check. If you don't check your email, I would recommend, and you do use your cell phone for texting a lot, I would recommend whenever somebody requires an email address from you that you use your cell phone's email address. Cell phones all have an email address associated with them. And for a Verizon phone, it's your 10-digit phone number at vtext.com. Then any email that goes to that will show up as a text on your cell phone. And it's just a useful tool, especially in school. If you want people to send things to your text and you'll check that, use that. For other phones, for other companies, it's a different email address. You have to look it up. Just look up email addresses for cell phones on Google and you'll find a huge list of them. But for Verizon, which most people have around here, it's your 10-digit number at vtext.com. So anyway, when you're signing up as a new student, you will get to this part where it says, my teacher gave me a course ID and an enrollment key. Your enrollment key is going to be PHYS, P-H-Y-S, all capital letters, 1410, which is the number for the course, of course. And I don't remember the course ID. Let me go look it up really quick.
No spaces?
No spaces. I gotta look up the course ID really quick. And this website will be kind of your center of all knowledge for this course. This is where you will do everything. Let's see. The course ID number is 20685. I don't know why we're still not seeing things up here on our screens at the front of the class. But if you want to see what I'm doing, you can always turn around and I can look at the backs of everybody's heads. But anyway. You can? Great. We can't see it, but you can. That's good. Oh, nobody wants to see my face anyway. Okay. I got married and I stopped taking care of my face. My wife actually likes me with a beard, so that's good. I don't have to shave. Right now it's a little ratty. So anyway. Okay, did everybody get signed in to My Open Math? Any problems with it at all? All right, now that you're into My Open Math, and you hopefully are into the class, you should see a page, if I can get to it. I don't know if I will be able to get to it. God, goodness gracious. There we go. It should say Physics 1410 College Physics Summer 2017 across the top. Hey, what's up?
Are you going okay or no?
Well, we don't have any screens in the front. Maybe we just need to turn them on here, because it looks like they're not on here.
Possibly. I was going to say, these students need to close their eyes. If not, Ferris said we can go over in 204. There we go, that looks like it.
I didn't think to look at these things, and they're both red, so maybe that will work.
Could be. Let's see if we come up. They should start though with the system, you would think.
Well, I've restarted it 4 times and pushed a whole lot of buttons, so
Okay.
looks like we got something coming. Okay, so anyway, this is what you should see this Physics 1410 College Physics. At the very top here, you have the OpenStax Physics textbook, and this will take you to the textbook online. Now, if you just really need a paper textbook to have in your hands, you can buy one. They're like 25 bucks. What's up?
What was the course ID again?
Course ID. 20
865? 858.
All right. Thank you. You bet. I'll have to look that up again. I don't remember the number. I have too many numbers rattling around in my noggin. Let's see, where is that? Course settings. There we go. Course settings 20685 for this course.
The enrollment key is Physics 15.
Yeah, it's PHYS, PHYS, all capital letters, 1410 is the... So this is what you should see. Well, you should see this actually. Does that look right? Okay, so far, I think maybe I have 3 assignments populated. Yeah. So we've got a few assignments here that are populated with questions. Not all of them are yet. Like I said, we're just kind of being the test class for this. But let's look at a couple of things before we get into assignments. Across the top here, you have messages. So you can, and on the side here, you have messages, forums, calendar, and course map. Now, messages are for sending messages to me. I don't know if you can send messages to each other in here. I think you can, but I don't know. So if you need to send a message to me, just click down here, send new message. Hopefully it works. There we go. And there we go. You can send a message to other people in class. So you can send messages to each other. I think you can. Has anybody tried that really quick? So anyway, then forums. I don't remember. I haven't set up a forum for this class yet, but if we want to, we can. Yes.
It's not working for me.
Not working. Okay. You got to the right thing here.
Like it's not signing me up.
Did you put a space between the 1410 and the physics?
Yeah, it's PHYS 1410 with no space
No space.
for the enrollment. The enrollment.
That's one of the new ones.
Let's take a look at the.
Put it in all caps, right?
Let's look again at our number.
1410 for the
20685. We did 20685 for the enrollment key.
No. Oh,
Which one's the course ID? Course ID is 20685. And then PH 0685. There you go. And then PHYS 1410. Yep, there you go. All right. So, okay, now we've got everybody signed in. That's actually quicker than it's ever happened. Are you signed in there in Broken Bow? Okay, good. I had to wait a second to see if you were frozen because I can't see you anymore. It's kind of weird to teach somebody. I had a class last semester where I was teaching people in Imperial, and the system was like this where I couldn't see them at all. And I had nobody in the class here. I had people in Imperial, so I'm just teaching to a blank screen all day. I'm like, this is just not working for me. It was hard to stay awake. Like talking to myself for an hour every other day. People would walk by the class and look in and, huh? Anyway. Okay, so, let's see, I need to go back to the class here. So the textbook is an honest-to-goodness textbook written by physics faculty members all over the nation, actually. It's a really good textbook, but it is primarily an online textbook. It is available as a print textbook. If you want a print textbook, go here to the textbook at OpenStax, and if you go to their main webpage, little OpenStax here, and go to physics. We don't want physics volume 1. Well, you can, just for this class, physics volume 1 would work because that's all we need for this class. But you can also get the full book, physics, college physics right here. And then you can just click on it and it will take you to, takes you back to the book. That's not what I want to do. I want to go to more information, I guess. Let's go to read more. Goodness, the internet is slow. I wonder what's going on. I bought this huge, super fast supercomputer for my office. And so, anytime I'm using any other computer, I get so impatient. I'm just like, you're slow. Why is this not taking me where I want to go? Take me to the class. I don't want to go to the book. Let's go to, okay, I'm going to actually, if you want to buy the book, just go to OpenStax on Google, openstax.org, or Google OpenStax with an X, and then you can look for the books here. When you look for the books here, go to Science, and it will give you an option for purchasing it. Physics Volume 1. You can view online, download the PDF, or order a print copy. What did you want to say?
You can just print it off too.
Yeah, you can print it off on your own, put it in a binder if you want. That's perfectly fine too. You can download it as a PDF, you can download it on iBooks, or you can order a print copy. Let's see what it costs here. Individual, $48.50, so it's a little more than I thought. Not $25, $48. No, it's still a really good price. A physics textbook of this size is usually around $300, so it's usually a lot more expensive. So, just so you know. So there's the textbook, and they say here peer-reviewed. That means that all of these textbooks are being vetted by other professors. This is not just some hack job of a textbook. They're good textbooks, and they are 100% free for us to use, which I love. Now let's go back to where we were in my open math. And let's see, we got to the textbook the calendar. We didn't cover the calendar. Let's go to the calendar. I need to go back a little. I need to go to student calendar. So for the calendar, it's just going to tell you when things are due. Holy macro, what's all that? Wow, those are all due on the same day, this Friday. That's not good. Okay, so I'll be fixing that later. But that's probably because I haven't, I know what it is, because I haven't filled those assignments yet. So the first 3 assignments, like I said, are the only ones that have problems in them so far. And as I fill these assignments, I'll also give them a due date. But so far, we have homework 1 due on Wednesday, homework 2 due on next Monday, homework 3 due next, the 31st, which is a Wednesday. And you can actually click right on these homeworks and get to them. If I click homework 1 in the calendar and I come down here to chapter 1, then I can actually get right into the homework and start doing the problems. And I'm working on this. This is another thing that I'm kind of doing as the class is going along, and hopefully we'll have a lot of this available. But you should have a button here that allows you to click on it and go directly to the section of the book that this stuff is in that you're trying to figure out. So whether or not it's working yet, we're about to find out, because I just put those in yesterday. No, yesterday was Sunday, it must have been Saturday. So let's see if it takes us to the right section. What is this about? This is about the metric system, apparently. So hopefully this will take us to the section of the book that has something to do with the Sistema Internacional. Physical quantities and units. Yep. So that's definitely the place you want to be for the metric system. So hopefully in each of the problems I will have a link to the book so that you don't have to, it's kind of hard to rifle through an ebook. It's not very easy to just do that. So we'll just make it hopefully easier for you just by allowing you to click on it. The other thing that is in each of these questions, or should be, is a message instructor about this question. If you have a question, about a problem, please click on this button inside the question, because that will tell me exactly what you've done. It will send me an email with all the work that you've done in the problem, any submissions you've made, so I can kind of see where you're at, and it'll also give me the question, so I know what your question, what you have a problem with. So that's very useful for me. This email system is extremely powerful. Let's take a look at it really quick. So here is the actual problem that you're asking the question about. You have all these tools up here. You can do attachments, you can attach files. So if you took a picture, for example, of your paper that you're doing your homework on, all your scratch work, whatever, your math, you can take a picture of that and attach it here and show, this is what I've done so far. Where did I go wrong? Or you can do a link to something online. You can also attach an image. This way you can do that either way, a file or an image. You can also put in a table of numbers, but you can also put in math and graphs into the email. So you can actually type in math. So if I type in, for example, and you have to be careful the way you do this. You always want to preview it before you send it. But I could type in something like x of t equals 4x squared minus 3, put some parentheses around that so that I want that to be all one thing. And then I could divide that whole thing by x to the 4th power, or something like that. But I want to put parentheses around that because that's in my denominator, make sure it stays in the denominator. And then I come outside of this little red box, and there you go. I have a capital X on the top, apparently. So I might want to change that. And if I wanted to change it, I can just click on it again, and I can go back in there, and I can change that capital X in the top, and fix it so that it makes more sense. And then I can go over here, and I can preview it. And you can do math. That's extremely useful, as you can imagine. I can show you step-by-step instructions for doing things using this tool. And you can show me things that you are doing. And we can communicate back and forth. So make use of this. You can insert a graph, like I said. You can come in here and you can put in lines and other things. Let's see. I've actually never used this. I've never had to use it. But let's see how it's done. Insert. We're doing so you type in an equation, and then you type in a range that you're going to put it in, and then you pick a color, and then you start doing things. So here's my f of x equals sine of x. Let's go from negative 5 to 2. Why not? And let's insert it. Whoops. I needed to graph it first. It's backspace. Negative 5, 2, and let's see. There you go. And then I insert it, right? So you can actually do graphs as well. You can do graphical work as well. The one thing that they haven't put into this, which I really want them to do, is a drawing thing where you can just draw. But that requires a lot of work in HTML5 or Flash, which is a pain in the butt. And also a little bit sketchy when you start using it. It starts to cause trouble for you. So in place of using this for drawing things, which we might have to do, we will use another program, which I'll show you later. And you guys are asking yourselves now, what is he doing? We've been talking for an hour and a half, and we haven't even talked about physics yet. Well, before we talk about physics, I would like to say that we do have another student here now. We've all introduced ourselves, so Packer, if you'd introduce yourselves to us and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm his son, and this will be my first college class that I've not taken in my house. So
He gets a college class every night at dinner. So. But yeah, dinner conversations. The way I grew up too. My dad was a physicist, and so it was all about that. But so we have 5 students here in North Platte. We do have 1 student in Broken Bow, which we can't see. We can't see Broken Bow, they can't see us. So, you know, we'll work with it for now. So anyway, you can skip around through the problems, and you can see that I haven't got all the things in here yet. I've only put a couple of the read buttons in here. Eventually I will hopefully have video buttons in as well. This will be a lot of work for me too. Every night I'm going to be building homework problems and putting in these read buttons and linking to YouTube videos that are related to these problems, so that hopefully you have as many learning tools as possible. Because I know that when you're working on a homework problem, you're not necessarily thinking, I just want to talk to my instructor right now. I'm going to call him up or I'm going to email him. You're really thinking, I just want to get this stupid problem done. And the worst thing about these online things is also the best thing about them. You're going to find, how many of you have used an online learning system like this where it grades it automatically? So Packer has? You have? Am I just imagining this, or is there something addicting about getting these problems right where they're graded automatically? Like that little green check mark that comes up. It's addicting. You want to get it. You have to get it. And that's one of the reasons I use these, is because I have never seen students more motivated to get a problem right than when I started using these. I started using these 10 years ago, and I've never turned back because of that reason alone. Students get motivated to learn when they get immediate gratification. It's the online generation. You get that immediate gratification, right? But I want to give you as many online learning tools as possible as well, because then that helps you to see what you need to do, to get some example work right in there. And so as we go on through this, hopefully we'll have video buttons on most of these as well. This first chapter I'm not going to worry about too much because it's not too challenging, hopefully, but in the second, third, and beyond chapters we will definitely have more of that and try to integrate more of that in. You can see here that these questions are different types. So question 1 was you're entering, let's see, you're choosing an equal to, a greater than, or less than. In question 2, it's a number and a unit that you're putting in. You're converting 4.5 PG, which supposedly we're supposed to know something about, into a standard unit, which would be kg for kilograms. This PG means picograms. But there are other types of problems as well. How many significant figures does this number have? You would write in a number. And here you have a video link. Hey, I actually have one in there. I forgot to put it in. So here you can click on the video link. It'll take you to a video in YouTube where you can watch the video and learn something. I'm trying to keep these videos in YouTube. Why is that a metric system video? That's obviously not correct. Anyway, like I said, I'm still putting these together. So, but there are lots of different kinds of problems. There are multiple choice kinds of problems. There are enter a number kinds of problems. There will even be enter a formula kind of problems where they want you to solve an equation for a certain variable and then enter in that formula that you've created. And so there will be multiple part problems where you do this part and then you do this part and you do this part, and so on and so forth. There will be problems that have graphics and pictures and even animations. And so lots of different things that you can include there. Some of these problems have a read button that does not take you to our textbook. And this is an example of that. This one will take you to a math textbook that has a geometry section. And geometry is one of the things that we need to know something about in physics. So this is not part of our textbook, but it is something that we will use. Okay, so that is the basics of the homework system so far. There will be things added to this. Like I said, you guys are my guinea pigs, so this is still kind of prototype stage. I will add some more things to this. I will add a link to the syllabus in here as well so that you have that online instead of just in your email. There will be exams in here. We will have at least 2, probably 3 exams. I'll probably split it into 3 exams of about 5 chapters apiece, where the first exam covers chapters 1 through, usually we cover 1 through 6 in the first exam, maybe 1 through 5, depending on where it kind of falls out. And the next one will cover the next 5 or 6 chapters. And the last one will be the final exam, which will cover the last 5 chapters or 6 chapters, but it will also cover some problems from the previous 2 exams. So that's something to be aware of. The final exam is comprehensive, but I only take problems from the previous exams. Also, the exam problems come from the homework. So every problem on every exam will be a problem you've seen before in the homework. Won't be exactly the same numbers in that problem because this system does randomize every problem. Every problem that it puts in there randomizes numbers and values so that everybody's question is slightly different. Okay? So while you can help each other with the problem, with the homework, and I recommend it, you can't tell each other the answers necessarily. It doesn't really work out so well. So other things that are included, there's this thing here that you can see called the late pass allowed. I think I've allowed everyone 3 late passes, which allows you to take an assignment beyond its due date for it. I think you have up to a day to use the late pass, and the late pass gives you an hour or 2 or something like that extra time to work on the homework. You do have a penalty for that. I think it's 10% or something. You also will be allowed to, we will throw out the bottom 2. We'll throw out the bottom 2 assignments, your bottom 2 grades on homework assignments. And I generally throw out the bottom lab grade as well. The lab grades will be integrated into your overall grade. 20% of the grade will be for lab grade. And my lab is this is all in the syllabus, which I'll show you. I tried to bring it up earlier, but I didn't quite get there. Let's see, courses. This is the syllabus. I'll email you when I get all your email addresses. This summer is not a future term anymore. Just bring it current on. I have too many files. Okay, this one I know is up to date for early spring, so it'll work. Now we have to wait. Okay, so this is how the course will be graded. We will have quizzes, and the lowest 3 quiz scores will be dropped. The only way that you can make up quizzes in this class is if you email me and tell me you're going to miss class, and then I'll tell you whether or not we'll have a quiz that day, and I'll give you the quiz early. So if you're going to miss a class, email me and tell me you're going to miss a class. I'll send you that quiz, or I'll tell you we're not going to have a quiz. Or if you have some kind of illness or death in the family or something like that, and you can't contact me before you're going to miss the class, just come and talk to me. I'm pretty reasonable about that. But don't tell me that you went duck hunting and you missed class and then you want to take the quiz, because that's just, I won't allow you to take a quiz over for that. But unless you tell me beforehand, then it's fine. That's my rule. But the online homework system, we're not using this other one. That's one I tried out and didn't like it. But we're going to use this one we're using now. And then we will have, we may have some papers. I don't always do quizzes every semester. It kind of depends on what's going on in the physics world. When there's something cool going on in the physics world, we try to research it and do some papers on it a little bit. But they're usually no more than a couple hundred words, 1 page. So don't worry too much about those, and we may or may not do them. And then the exams will be taken online as well. The 3 mid will have, this one says 3 midterms, but over the summer we'll probably only do 2, and then the final exam. And then this is how we'll grade this course. Quizzes will be 10%, homework / papers 35%. So it's a big part of it. And what that means is that if you keep up with the homework and do well on the homework, you can actually do really well in this class, even if your exams, even if you have a bad exam. I've had somebody that got a 50% on an exam and still pulled an A in this class because they did so well on their homework and pulled everything else out as well. You also have the final exam worth 20%, and then professionalism worth 5. But then if that is 100 points, then there's 25 more points for labs, because labs have to be 20% of the overall grade. So if we were grading out of 125 points, then there would be another thing here that says 25 for labs. Professionalism is something that I put in my grades because I had some bad experiences with students early in my education professional career, where students were just giving me so much grief, and most of it was grief because they wanted an A+ and not an A, or they were just arguing things that were just inconsequential. It wasn't going to affect their grade at all, but they were just being really obnoxious. And so I decided to put professionalism there so that if people really got ornery with me ever again, I'd have some place where I could take points from them. To tell you the truth, I've only had to take points from somebody once, and that was for being dishonest with me about something in the class. But besides that professionalism, I've never had to take points from students besides just a couple of instances over the past decade. So anyway, that's what professionalism is about. Everything else I think is pretty self-explanatory. We're on a 5-point scale, which is pretty standard for the school. All this is the stuff the lawyer makes us do. I don't know if you're interested in any of this, but if you are, you'll have a copy of it in your email by the end of the day. So anyway, that's kind of this class in a nutshell. I know we've kind of burned through it really quickly. That's because we spent an hour and a half trying to get the class up and running. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about all this junk we've thrown at you for the past 20 minutes?
So most of the quizzes and like our final exam stuff, will that be online or will that be a hard copy?
The quizzes will usually just be here in class because I have a tendency to just make them up by the day. Sometimes I make up a quiz depending on what we were studying the last class period, because I felt like maybe we weren't understanding as well as I wanted to, and so I make the quiz, I design the quiz to help us to learn more about that particular subject. My quizzes are more designed towards learning than they are towards testing your knowledge. So I hope that you learn more in a quiz than anything. And when we do a quiz, you'll see that it's really hard to fail one of my quizzes. If you're here and you participate, you're going to get a decent grade. But other times I will design my quizzes towards something that we're about to learn to introduce a subject. And sometimes it's based on what I'm seeing happening in the homework. If I'm seeing 4 or 5 out of 6 or 7 people all asking a question about the same homework problem, then I will probably try to emphasize that in a quiz, and we'll try to learn something more about that. So quizzes for me are more of a learning tool than anything else. So they're usually kind of spur of the moment. I'll have you pull out a piece of paper, and then I'll enter those scores in online later by hand. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
At the high school, they had the infinite campus thing where you can like keep track of your grades. Does the college have anything like that, or is that just through like your...
The college does not have anything like that, but my open math will track your grade for you constantly.
Okay. And most of it will be through there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it will. So when I've got it all set up, it will calculate all of those percentages for the homeworks and the quizzes and the exams automatically, and you'll know how you're doing in this class by the time we finish the first exam. So by the end of May, you'll know how you're doing in this class. Okay. And really, you can know just about every day. Every time you finish an assignment, you look at that assignment and say, oh, I got a 92 or a 97 or 84. That'll kind of give you an idea too, because most of my students' grades follow their homework grades pretty closely, just because it's so heavily geared towards homework. Homework is worth more than the exams. So. Any other questions or concerns or comments? Do we want to learn some physics? 10 minutes to 5, and we're almost ready to start the class. Woohoo, it was great. Okay.
Technology.
So, in this class, I will generally teach. I'm not a big fan of PowerPoint. I don't use it hardly at all. I will pretty much put the book right up here on the screen, and we'll just scroll through it so that you will not be seeing the book for the first time when you open it at home. Because that's the thing, that's the biggest frustration I had with people who are in love with PowerPoint. I had so many professors that were in love with PowerPoint or overhead slides. I had one teacher who was using the same slides for the past 30 years so that he had to actually draw over the pen so that we could see it. He had to trace over the top of it when he was giving his lecture, because we were the 30th year of classes seeing these same overhead projector slides. But the problem was that he was using a new book with 30-year-old slides. And so the stuff that he was doing on the slides didn't necessarily correspond with the book all that well. I mean, physics hasn't changed that much in 30 years. But still, there are nuances, little ways, the notations in the book and things that are done differently, from year to year or whatever else. And it just was frustrating for me. And so I like to be in the book with my students during class all the time, so that you're seeing this in class, and when you go home, it's not new to you. It's not new to see how we're doing things and everything else. It's just that way. And I like a lot of the imagery in the book. I like this great physics image, right? It is a galaxy. So did any of you did you see my picture of the galaxies out there in the hallway as you walked by? You do know that that's a picture of galaxies, right? Let's take a look at it online really quick. It's called the Hubble Deep Field. Does anybody know what deep field means as far as the Hubble Space Telescope goes? We need a really good picture here. That's a nice one. View image. Let's zoom in. Hubble Space Telescope launched in 1991, I think, 92 maybe. And the whole purpose of that telescope was to look into space and see things that nobody had ever seen before. So as soon as they launched it, they looked out into space, and the first thing they saw was a big fuzzy blur, because they'd actually made the mirror wrong, which is hilarious. So they actually had to go up into space on the space shuttle, have some spacewalking astronauts out there, and they had to give it a pair of glasses to fix it. Well, it was really a new mirror. They give it a new secondary mirror to fix the incorrect primary mirror. And then what they did is they turned this thing so that it was pointing into a point in space where they had never detected any light ever before. Okay, so they turned it away from the Milky Way, because out in space the Milky Way is just a big blotch of light. You can't see anything but the Milky Way when you're in space. But if you turn away from our own galaxy towards the outer, outwards from the arms of our galaxy, you see big open black space with nothing in it. And that's what they did. They turned the Hubble Space Telescope towards this big black and open space, and they left it there for like 2 weeks. And when they got the image back, this is what they saw. And every one of these points of light is a galaxy. Not a star, billions of stars in a galaxy. Just amazing. And they've taken thousands of these pictures, if not millions, over the past couple of decades with the Hubble Space Telescope. Just incredible. And it opened up a whole new realm, not just of astronomy. This is not about just astronomy. This is about the fundamental understanding of the universe in general. The fundamental understanding of energy, fundamental understanding of mass, fundamental understanding of the evolution of all of everything. And it's just been amazing. Now, Hubble was well known. The reason the Hubble Space Telescope was named after Edwin Hubble was because he was the guy that measured the expansion of the universe. And the expansion of the universe is what gave rise to the Big Bang Theory. As Hubble was studying stars, he noticed that they were moving away from us, that everything is moving away from everything else at different speeds and different locations, but it's all moving away. And he says, if everything is moving away from everything else, then at some point there must have been an explosion that caused this movement away from everything. This outward expansion. And the Big Bang Theory was created, was started. Not the TV show, although that's a really great Big Bang Theory as well.
It is.
Because you'd be surprised how accurate the science is in that show. I think they have 3 physicists on staff to make sure that their science is good. But their engineering is not so good, but their science is good. And did you know that actually the woman who's the main character's
Isn't
girlfriend, what's her name?
Amy Farrell Fowler?
She's actually a scientist.
Yeah, isn't she like a neurologist or something? She's a PhD of some sort.
Yeah, she's a professor at a university somewhere. I can't remember where. I actually was doing some research on women scientists today and throughout history, and that's where I learned that. But that's kind of cool. She's an actual scientist. The rest of them aren't, but it's cool that she is. And she asked to be on the show. I don't know if you knew that. She actually, after the show started, she came to them and she said, "I want to be on the show," and they gave her the part. So kind of cool.
Wait, which one is that? Is that the blonde?
No, she's
Sheldon's
the
girl.
Sheldon's,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
the nerdy one. Yeah.
The one with the dark hair.
Yeah, not the Cornhusker.
Not the.
Which would be really funny if she was a scientist.
I think, well, you said the main girl's girlfriend. I thought he was the main kid.
I don't know really the main characters, I guess.
It was Leonard, now it's kind of Sheldon, now it's kind of both.
Yeah, it kind of changes around, I guess, but you're right, that was probably a little confusing. That would have been really funny if she was the scientist.
Yeah.
She's playing such a non-scientist. But anyway, this is just the beginning. This Hubble Deep Field photograph is just the beginning of the things that have been discovered within my lifetime, and almost within most of your lifetimes. There's been so much more. How many of you have heard of gravity waves? We've got a couple here that have heard of it. Okay, what do you know about gravity waves?
Gravity waves are the effect of gravity on what we don't know.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. What we don't know is a lot to do with it. Anybody else have any ideas or thoughts about it?
Is that what you're talking about with everything moving away? Because it would be some type of gravity.
There's certainly gravity waves in that picture, but it's actually really weird. And what we don't know is a lot to do with it. In the early 1900s, when Einstein was really in the thick of things, and Einstein is truly the father of all modern science, not just modern physics, but all modern science has some kind of root in what Einstein did. But Einstein came along and he said, you know what? I don't really think that time is what we think it is, and I don't think that space is what we think it is. I think space and time are really the same thing, and I think that they're not constant. He says, I think that space and time can bend and can move and can stretch and can twist. And he says, this would make a lot more sense than what we think of as space and time. Time just marches along forward second after second, and space is just this, three-dimensional grid with Cartesian coordinates and all this stuff. That stuff doesn't make sense if what we're seeing out there in the evidence is true. He said, I think space can bend and move and stretch and all this stuff. And nobody believed him. Everybody thought he was a crazy whack job. And then they started proving his theory is correct. They started showing that these things are true. One of the observations they make was during a total solar eclipse, which is going to happen again this year, right, in August. We'll be in class at the time of the eclipse. Well, you guys might be, but I'm going to skip class that day, and I'm going to go up to Stapleton and watch the eclipse. So if you guys want to come with me, you're welcome to. But the eclipse this year is another one of these, but back in the early 20th century, they had an eclipse, and they observed Mercury going around the sun. And what they were looking for is they were looking for variations in Mercury's orbit. Because Mercury is so close to the sun that it's actually within this bent space-time that the sun creates. This warped space that the sun creates because it has so much gravity, so much mass. And they'd never been able to observe this, but they did during that eclipse. They were able to observe space and time warped, and they saw Mercury bending in and out of its orbit because of this warpiness of space and time. Now this, of course, sounds really weird to everybody, but it is weird. Recently, last year even, it was last year that this happened. It's really exciting. Well, let's go back a little bit. Einstein, early 20th century, he said that if you had a huge cataclysmic event gravitationally, something big gravitationally happening out in the universe, that gravity would actually create ripples in space. Okay, what does a ripple in space mean? Well, imagine that this room could stretch and then compress and then stretch and then compress, or wave or twist or bend or expand or whatever else. Think of think of the bus in the Harry Potter movie that bends and squishes. Think of that, right? You imagine that you're actually bending space so that everything in the space bends is with it. Matter and time and everything, energy, all bends with it. Well, Einstein predicted that would happen if you had a huge cataclysmic event with objects that had a huge amount of mass. Well, that happened, and they had the instruments ready to measure it. They created these huge instruments that are miles long, and there's 2 of them. And these instruments are designed to measure the length of space in 2 different dimensions, and to actually compare the difference between the 2 dimensions. So they have these 2 long arms, and they got lasers going down back and forth to measure the distances, and these distances are exactly the same. But every once in a while, after they started this instrument, one of them is different than the other. And as they've been different from each other, they've actually detected collisions of black holes. That's what they've actually discovered they're detecting. So there are two massive black holes out there, and they collide with each other, and they create this huge wave. They create this big bend in space, and it's like dropping a rock in the water. You get this ripple that travels outward away from the event. And thank goodness it happened far away from us, because if it happened close to us, our entire solar system would be destroyed. But we caught the ripple. And that has finally been discovered for the first time ever. It took them 60 years after Einstein predicted it, or 70 or 80 years maybe. But it's been predicted. I mean, science is really going places right now. And it started with Einstein, and it's gone on with people like Edwin Hubble and other great scientists that have pushed this forward, and great engineers and great technicians, and even great philosophers. Just so many people have pushed this forward, and it's become a huge deal. And the reason I talk about this so long is because I'm excited to be alive right now. The next thing that happens, the next big thing that happens in physics is going to be big. And you guys might be around to see it. The biggest thing that's happened in my lifetime in science probably is the detection of gravity waves. That's probably it right there. And so far in my lifetime. And there have been a lot of things in my lifetime, but I can't think of anything bigger than that. In my parents' lifetime, the laser, the invention of the laser, probably the biggest thing that happened in science. In the grandparents in their parents' lifetime, probably Einstein. So there's not that many big events in throughout history. Usually about one per generation. So the big one for you guys will probably be pretty big. So I'm excited. Maybe I'll still be alive.
So time can change too?
Absolutely.
So time keeps going on, right? It's just like, and then space can...
I'm going to save you the headache and tell you that we're not going to study that this semester. But the truth of the matter is, if you really want to know, is that time doesn't exist as we think it does. Time was invented by man. By some Egyptian watching water drip out of a pot that he cracked one day. I always wondered if that's where a crack pot comes from. It probably not. I'm just going to check really quick. Are you still with us there in Broken Bow? Okay, good. I haven't put you to sleep, have I? Okay. Oh, we're good. Okay, so, yeah, time is a weird thing. The second, it's a human, we look up in the sky and we see the sun going around the earth. Is the sun going around the earth? No, we know that's not true. So what is time? That's what time was based on, isn't it? Time was based on the sun going around. That's what our entire concept of time is based on our perspective of the sun going around the earth. And it's not really doing that, is it? So what is time? And we've just kind of assumed that our understanding of time is correct. And Packer's back here smiling because he's heard this lecture many times in my household. But time really is not what we think it is. And Einstein understood that. And more than understood it, he was capable of accepting it. He was willing to accept it and to move on. And that's a really hard thing for us to accept. We're not going to mess with that in this class. Because messing with that, saying that time doesn't exist, it completely nullifies this entire class. I mean, everything is based on time in this class. So we're going to use time all the time, no pun intended. So, but the truth of the reality of it is that as scientists and engineers, we do have not only the opportunity, but I think the obligation to think beyond the box. Now, not just think outside the box, but think well beyond the box. Think where the box is not even existing. Because that's where the new science is going to be. That's where the new engineering is going to be. That's where the new world is going to be. And philosophers like to think that they can think outside the box, but I'll tell you what, physicists got them beat. Because when you can start thinking that time does not exist, you're way out there. Okay? So, it's fascinating, and it should be, and I want it to be. And a lot of the things that we're going to do in this class are not going to be so fascinating. Oh, we're going to do another one of these problems. We're going to do another thing with all this math. We're going to draw another picture, another force diagram, another this. So it's not necessarily all that fascinating to get through this part of this of physics, but we will, from time to time, find opportunities to find the fascinating parts of it. And this is one.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, sir.
With the whole gravity waves, is it kind of... This is going back to I was really interested in science back in elementary school, so I went a lot farther than our class went. But with gravity and how we think of
space-time is like this. If you think of it as like a blanket, like you drop a ping pong ball in, that's Earth. You drop like a baseball in, that's the sun. You drop a bowling ball that just goes right through, that's like a black hole, right?
Right, that's the...
Is that kind of what you were talking about with gravity waves?
Yeah, and that is a very common, that's actually something that has been used by a lot of people, a very common way to think about this. And in reality, if there's reality with this, in reality it's very difficult to imagine it because it's really beyond our experience. And this is very common in physics. It's very common to come up against something that we don't have any everyday experience with. And so physicists have to learn to think outside of their reality. So sometimes they come up with these little constructs to help us to visualize it a little bit, but really is there a way to visualize 4 dimensions? For a human being, no, there isn't. Because we live in 3 dimensions. That's all of our experience. But maybe there's a way that we can do it mathematically, and that's the way we have it. And that's probably the take-home lesson, is that physicists have to learn to trust the mathematics more than anything. Because mathematics can work in 4 dimensions. It doesn't care. Mathematics has never lived, so it doesn't know what 3 dimensions is like. So it doesn't care if you had 4 or 5 or 7 or 28. It doesn't care how many dimensions you're working in, it just does the math. So we have to learn to trust our math. We have to create a mathematical model that describes the universe that we see, the evidence that we have, and then try to push that forward in theory with the mathematics, and then test those theories and see if they're viable. It's a huge part of physics. And physicists do science differently than most. Most scientists go out there and they collect their evidence, or they have what do they call it? They call it their hypothesis, right? They have a hypothesis based on observation. I think this is going to be happening because this is what I've seen happening, right? And then they test their hypothesis by taking data. Physicists take data first. They don't care what they think is going to happen. They just take the data, and then they try to fit a model to the data. And then they use the model to create a theory, and then they test the theory by taking more data. And that's an advantage that we have, but also a disadvantage. I mean, it's a disadvantage because it's a lot more difficult, and it's an advantage because we can push our theories much further than any other sciences can because of the mathematics. The mathematics allow us to expand our theories without having any experience beyond what we're doing. I want to talk a little bit about biological things in physics. Cooking, the microwave, invented by an engineer. It's all about physics. Microwaves are essentially like radio waves, they're radar waves. In fact, the guy that invented them had a chocolate bar in his pocket when he was working on the Great Dane radar in Alaska, and when he got down from the radar, his chocolate bar had melted. And it was 20 degrees below zero outside. He had no reason to believe that that chocolate bar had melted for any reason at all, except that something goofy was going on with the radar dish. And he discovered that microwaves at a particular frequency will have a sympathetic vibration with water and oils. And that sympathetic vibration can heat up food because food has a lot of water and oils in it. Right? Put a very dry piece of food in a microwave, it won't heat it up. Put a saltine cracker in a microwave, it's not going to heat it up. Because it doesn't have any water or oils in it. It's made of flour and flour. I mean salt. I mean there's salt and flour and that's it. I mean there's nothing in it. You have to have that water because of that sympathetic vibration. It's a resonance frequency that is known to exist and for water molecules and oil molecules. Here we have a cross-section from a magnetic resonance imaging image, right, of a brain and eyeballs and nose, nasal cavity, and whatever else. What is magnetic resonance imaging all about? Anybody know what that's about? What's the magnetic part? You ever seen it? You ever seen
It's putting someone in the donut. What's
the donut?
It's a giant magnet.
That's right. It's a huge superconductor, and those superconductors, when they are cooled down to about 3-4 Kelvin using liquid helium, have no resistance, no electrical resistance. So if you start a current in them, the current will continue going as long as you keep it at that temperature. So 12 years ago, when they got their first MRI machine here at the hospital, I think it was about 12 years ago, they started up, they got that coil cooled down with liquid helium down to, which 3 or 4 Kelvin is like 500 degrees below zero or something like this. in Fahrenheit, but maybe 3 or 400, but whatever it is. They got it really cool, and then they started up a current, a really, really, really big current. And that big current creates a huge magnetic field, and then they just disconnected the power supply, and that current's been flowing ever since. The electrical current's just been going around and around and around for 12 years. They have a new one up there that they just started a few years ago that they started, but that old one is still going. And the magnet actually resonates. It causes vibrations just like the microwave oven, except these vibrations are specific to specific chemicals. And so they put chemicals in your body, or they can actually resonate with chemicals that already exist in your body. And then as they resonate, they send out electromagnetic waves. Those electromagnetic waves can be detected. Electromagnetic waves are just light waves or radar waves or microwaves. Those are all light waves. And those waves can be detected, and the detectors put all those waves into a computer and create an image. And magnetic resonance imaging has no ill effects on the body, unlike X-rays. X-rays are such a high energy electromagnetic wave that they can actually cause cancer. They can actually dismantle your DNA. Here are some cells from like onions. Yeah, there we go, onions. And the reason that they show that is because what they're doing here is showing us that there's a lot of physics going on down here. And this has only been in the past few decades that they've started to discover how things like mitosis work and meiosis and other things. All these chemical processes are not just biochemical processes. They're actually, at their very fundamental roots, they're energy processes. They're matter processes. They're physics processes. And so it gets quite interesting what's going on down there. The greats of physics. Who's this guy? Yes, you can tell by the wig, right? Sir Isaac Newton. Anybody know this one?
Marie Curie.
Marie Curie, right? What's she famous for?
Radioactive element.
Yeah. And she's the only person to have 2 Nobel Prizes. The only person ever. It's pretty impressive, especially for a woman in the early 20th century, late 19th century. Do you know how many women were in physics at that time? Well, there was her. There were actually others as well. There was Eliza Meitner, also in physics at that time. A little bit later, her daughter was also a physicist. I think she had 2 daughters actually that were physicists. But there weren't many. To have women in physics was not very common back then. It became more common because of her. But in engineering, did you say you wanted to go into engineering? No. You guys are engineering, but you're doing something. Agris something, right? Sorry, I forget these things. If you go in an engineering class, you're going to go into this class with like 400 men, like 4 women. It's like the worst ratio if you're trying to find a date. So you get all these engineering guys that go take classes all over the universities just so they can find a girl to meet, because there's only 4 in this class and they're all already dating somebody. But engineering is starting to grow this way as well. We're starting to get more and more women in engineering. Physics, it's much more common. Chemistry, it's very common. The other sciences, biology is very, very common. But physics it's been kind of behind. And I think the biggest reason is because it's just the sexual politics of the world. It's always been, women have certain things that they do. Women are supposed to do certain things. Women are this, women are that. And finally people are starting to shed this and say, you know what, let them do whatever they want. Stop telling them what they need to do. They don't have to be nurses or dental assistants or whatever. And that's fine. Those professions are great and they're honorable and everything else. But if they want to go and be a physicist or they want to be an engineer, then more power to them. So it's a great thing. It's a really great thing what Marie Curie did, and she was a very, very strong person in many, many ways. She also died of cancer because of her research. She gave her life for her research.
Yeah, I thought that's kind of ironic.
Yeah, it wasn't uncommon during the time because they knew so little about these things, and so they really just didn't know that they were poisoning themselves, unfortunately.
Aren't her belongings still kept locked away because of?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that she worked with that is still radioactive today. Absolutely, and her and several other people. So, physics. What is physics? Why is it so different? Physics really is truly different than any other science in a lot of really important ways. One of them is that it is the most fundamental science there is. We're not just studying something in particular. We're studying everything in general when we study physics. Now, in this class, we're going to concentrate on some of the basics of Newtonian physics. And the reason we're starting with that is because that is the most that is the physics that we have the most experience with. So it's a good place, a good jumping off point. Now, if we were going to take the second semester of this, we would go off into electricity and magnetism, which we have much less experience with as human beings. And so we would start getting into that realm of things we don't know. And then at the end of the next semester's class, we would get into things like relativity and bending space, and we would throw ourselves off the cliff of this unknown world. And we would hopefully be a little more okay with it because we have a strong foundation in the things that we did understand. And so physics is this idea of using models, theories, and laws. Now, what are the differences between these things? We already talked about models a little bit. A model is a representation of the universe around us, right? We look at the data, we look at our observations, and we say, how can we form a mathematical construct that explains this stuff, that describes this is a better word, maybe not explains it, but describes it. So let's take speed, for example. You have a car going down the street, and it takes an hour to go 60 miles, and we call that 60 miles per hour, right? And the equation for that is a model, okay? The equation is a model. Now, not all models are equations. You have the equation that says speed equals distance divided by time. That's one model for velocity or speed or whatever. But there are also models that are images, that are imagery, or they are the model of the trampoline with the different masses on it, bending space and time. That's another type of model. They're a model to help describe what's going on, and this is a model. What is this a model of?
And atoms.
Is this what atoms look like?
No.
Not by any means. What does an atom look like?
We don't know.
Who knows? The things that we see with, the light waves that we see with, are like 100,000, or 100 to 1,000 times bigger than the atom. We'll never be able to see an atom, ever. It will never happen. We can detect single atoms. We can see a little bump when an atomic force microscope bumps over a gold atom. We can see that. So we can kind of measure the approximate size of an atom. We can see how they're arranged when they're in a crystalline lattice. But we'll never be able to see an atom. It's just never going to happen. Anything that we have is going to end up being a representation or a model. And so this is a model, and this is the model for the planetary model, that they call it, where it shows the electrons going around and around and around in circles. If this was true, if this was really what atoms were, then the entire universe would have collapsed, minutes after it was created. This could never happen. This was a bad model, unfortunately. But it was a model that we started with because we didn't understand what we were looking at. We didn't understand all of the information we had. And so we made a model, and then we started to test the model. After this model was proven to be incorrect, we came up with a new model for the atom. The new model of the atom doesn't show the electrons in orbits. It shows electron clouds, these billowing, pillowy shapes around the atom, right? Well, that shows where the atom might be, or what the electron might be, right? Is a good way to explain that. So models are very important to us. Theories are where we take that model and push it to the next level. We say, we have this model, we have these mathematical equations, we have these drawings, we have these geometries, whatever else that we think describe what's going on out there. So if this is what is true, if this is correct, what is the next step? If this is correct right here, if this model is correct, and the atoms, the electrons are going around the atom, then what's the next step? Well, maybe you have electrons further out, electrons closer in, maybe you have electrons going at different speeds or whatever else. That's the next thing to test. And that's exactly what they tested. The thing that they tested, they said, if this is going around in circles, it has to be accelerating, because acceleration is what causes things to turn. And they said, well, if that's true, and it's an electron, let's see what happens when electrons accelerate. And they learned that when electrons accelerate, they give off light. And when they give off light, they lose energy. In other words, they slow down. And when they give off energy, if you're going around in a circle and you slow down, what happens?
Stop with that.
You get closer and closer and closer until you collapse into that, and that's why the whole universe would collapse. So that model was incorrect. It was a model that led to a theory. The theory was tested. The theory failed, and so they had to create a new theory and a new model, right? They created a new model, a new theory from it, and tested those theories again. So these are theories and models, but what are laws? What's a law?
Isn't a law just a theory that's been proven absolutely correct?
And it's a law that we haven't, it's a theory we haven't disproven yet.
I think you guys are both on the right track. A theory, there's just to be clear, there's never been a theory that's been proven to be absolutely correct, except in mathematics. And they call those theorems, right? In mathematics, you can prove things to be absolutely correct because in mathematics, you don't actually have to translate anything to the real world. So if it works in math and it always works that way, then it's a theorem and that's correct. But outside of math, the world is real, right? A lot of mathematicians like to call math the only true science because it's the only thing you can prove to be correct. Absolutely. I think that makes it just the opposite of it. Because science is not about proving things to be absolutely correct, because there's no such thing. Every time we do something, it's just a model that has inconsistencies. It's a model or a theory that has flaws that we're going to have to fix in real science. So what a law is pretty much the same thing that a law is in our everyday lives. When you have a law that you go 25 miles an hour, you go 25 miles an hour. And if you break that law, you get in trouble, right? And in physics, it's the same way. There are laws out there that have never been observed to be broken. Nature does not break these laws. Can anybody think of a law of nature that is not broken by nature? You may have heard some in chemistry or somewhere
All
else.
mass has gravity.
Okay, mass creates gravity. Let's see. I'm trying to think what law. I think.
How about Newton's laws of motion?
Yeah, I think that's Newton's law of gravitation would be that one. That mass and gravity are. I think that's actually Newton's. Well, anyway, yeah, Newton's law of gravitation, which is not one of his laws of motion, interestingly enough. But Newton's law of gravitation shows that mass creates gravitational fields, and that those fields are a 1 over r squared dependence. We'll learn about this in class. Anything else?
Matter cannot be created or destroyed.
Okay, this is a perfect example. I love this one. Why do I love this one?
Because it's not entirely correct.
Because we broke it, right? Who broke this law? I'll give you one guess on a scientist in the 20th century that broke every other law. Einstein. Yes. How do you break this law? The atomic bomb. Right? He predicted that, well, this is his prediction. This was his law. Right there. What does this law say? Does anybody know what E stands for?
Energy.
What does M stand for?
Mass.
And this?
Speed of light.
So energy equals mass times a speed. Can energy be created or destroyed?
Yes.
According to this equation, it can, because apparently you can, if you have mass and the speed of light exists, then you can get energy, right? According to that equation. And what he discovered is that in certain situations at the subatomic level, when you create new atoms from other atoms, particularly in the first atomic bomb that was dropped, you have a uranium-235 atom that gets pulled apart and makes two other smaller atoms. I can't remember what they are. Thallium, thorium, and something else, I don't remember. But anyway, your uranium-235 atom gets torn apart, and in the process, there's some mass that's unaccounted for. The atoms that you end up with are less massive than the atom that you started with, even though they have the same number of neutrons and protons and electrons. There's less mass. And it's kind of a mystery, but that mass turned into energy and turned into an explosion. You know how much mass made this explosion?
Not much.
Not much, like a gram or less. A gram is very small, right? A gram is, you take, this is a gram. That's how much mass made that explosion right there, maybe. Maybe less.
Probably not like.
Probably a lot less.
trillion times more bomb.
Oh yeah, we have lots of these bombs kicking around. We've only ever used 2 of them in war, but this is incredible because this energy can also be controlled. Instead of making it explode like this in an uncontrollable mess, you can actually control it and make electricity, which is nice. Really, it's I mean, with this much uranium-238 or 235 or plutonium or whatever else that you can do this with, you can make enough energy to power this city for a year. Easy. And we do it all the time. We have 2 nuclear reactors in the state that do that. It's equivalent, that much is equivalent to, I think, like 200,000 pounds of coal or 200,000 tons of coal or something like that. Like 20 train loads of coal. And it's just incredible. But that's a law of nature that was broken. That's a law of nature that they still teach in chemistry as a law of nature, but it's not a law of nature. Conservation of mass is not. Anybody else think of another one?
I wouldn't say conservation of energy, but
You would say that, but we just broke it,
conservation of mass.
right? Because you can actually turn energy into mass. It can go the other way. Right?
Two-way street.
It's a 2-way street for sure. So it turns out that there aren't that many conservation laws, and almost all of them were discovered by physicists in the 20th century. One of them that was discovered outside of the 20th century is the conservation of momentum. The conservation of angular momentum is an absolute law so far. We've never observed it to be broken. And this is one of the things that physicists are always trying to do. We're always looking for that something that doesn't change. There are so many things that are changing all the time, but if you can find that one thing that doesn't change, you can use it to your advantage. It's a huge boon to have. Something that doesn't change amid all this changing junk is extremely valuable because you can hang your hat on it, you can hang your theory on it, you can hang all kinds of things on it. So it's a great thing. Scientific method we already talked about enough here. And we got some great philosophers. Got to have philosophers, right? You have this guy, Aristotle, studied physics, and then you have Galileo Galilei, right? Physics, all kinds of things with astronomy and everything else. Niels Bohr, he's the guy that came up with the new model of the atom, right? The model of the atom that we mostly use today. Funny thing is that he came up with this new model of the atom, but his model really only works for one of the atoms in the periodic table. Which one? Hydrogen, because it has 1 electron. Turns out every time you add another electron, it makes the problem just almost impossible. So it's just a real pain in the neck. Here's a nice picture. Here's a scanning tunneling microscope where they made an image of individual gold atoms. Each of these little dots is a gold atom. It's not an image. They just detected it. But that's okay.
Mr. Daly?
Yep.
How many notes do we need to be taking as you're going through this, or just kind of making sure we're paying attention?
It's up to you. It's up to you. I'm not a note taker, so I don't really emphasize it very much. You can take notes as you please, but as you know, this is recorded, so you can always go back and watch it again. I found that most students don't really need to take notes until we do examples, until we start working on actual examples. And this first chapter doesn't have very many of those. So we're just going to be going through a bunch of stuff, just so that you are familiar with the things that we're going to be using in this class. Yes?
Just wondering, after a technical mishap, did you see if it was recorded?
Good question. It's still recording. We're going on 1 hour and 52 minutes of recording, so thank you. Okay, now I love this picture. And the reason that I love this picture is because this was a picture taken from the moon, I believe by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in the first moon landing on Apollo 11. And this is the first time that the people on Earth saw their own planet from another celestial body. This picture changed the world, and not just scientifically. It changed the world. Do you know that after this picture was taken, Greenpeace was created? People started looking at the planet very differently when they saw it from outer space. They started thinking, you know what? Maybe we ought to take care of it a little bit better. Now, I'm not saying that everything that Greenpeace has done is good. I definitely don't believe that. I think that, killing loggers in the forest is not worth saving trees. But certainly the mindset of looking outside of ourselves changed. I mean, the civil rights movement started shortly after this picture, and not on accident. Shortly after this picture was taken, people started looking around and saying, you know what, we ought to try to treat I can't speak. We should treat each other a little bit better, right? We should start looking at each other differently. So many revolutions in Earth's history took place in the 1960s and 1970s after this. Some for the better, some for the worse. It just kind of depends on your own personal point of view. But it was a hugely impactful moment in Earth's history. And so I love that picture. And it was physics and engineering that did that. The physics and engineering that took us to that point. And a little bit of politics. The politics of that generation were very different than the politics of this generation. The President of the United States got up at that time and he said, you know what, we can do anything. Let's go to the moon. And we did. And that's really all it took. It just took a guy standing up on a podium and saying, let's go to the moon. Let's make it an effort for our nation, and we're going to be the first ones there. And let's do it. And we just did it. It's all it took.
So we really did go to the moon then?
Oh, absolutely. No question. Yes, we certainly did. My father actually left some instruments up there. My father was not an astronaut, but he did help design some instruments and send some instruments up to the moon. They're still sitting up there. And there are instruments on the moon that you can actually detect if you have strong enough equipment to do it. So they're definitely there. You have to have good enough equipment to reach out that far and detect things from that far. But it's definitely, there's a big mirror on the moon. If you have a strong enough and focused enough laser, you can bounce a laser off of the mirror. So they still use that to measure the distance between the Earth and the moon. All right, so let's talk about the SI system. SI stands for Système International. It is French for the international system, right? And eventually, what really happened is 150 years ago, France is being ruled by the emperor. What's the emperor's name? Napoleon, right?
Napoleon.
A little longer than that, but anyway, it was, when was that? 200 years ago? 250? I don't know, whatever it was. Napoleon's going across Europe and he's leaving a big swath of conquered countries in his path, and one of his main things was everybody's going to use the same units for everything. Before this happened, you had the King of England that invented the foot. It was the size of his foot. But then he died and his son took over, and his son was 10 years old, and now you have a foot that's like 3 inches long. And it just didn't work out so well. And so they decided they all wanted to go standardized units. And they decided on the unit of the meter for length, and the kilogram for mass, and then for other things like volume, you had the liter, and it was all based scientifically, according to their understanding, on water. Why is water such a scientific thing?
We like it.
We like it, right? We drink it, and so do all living things. And of course, at that time, living science or biological science was the hot topic, right? In France at that time, you have Pasteur. What was his first name? Louis Pasteur, right? Louis Pasteur was making waves across Europe. He was inventing ways to keep milk from going bad, and to keep eggs from going bad, and all these other things from going bad. He was figuring out that microbes were causing infections, that microbes were causing disease. And so life science is the big thing. So of course we're going to base everything on water, because water is all about life, so that's obviously very scientific. Well, it turns out that if you want to go to fundamental physics, water is not necessarily all that important. Water, we still drink it while we're doing our physics, but we can also drink grape juice, which is still mostly water. But so water is not that important to physics because there are plenty of planets that don't have water. Space has hardly any water in it. Water is really kind of stuck on just a few planets. And so it's not all that important, but we stay with it anyway so that we don't confuse the rest of the world. However, there are some physicists who don't. If you go to Europe right now, there's this huge scientific experiment happening on the Swiss border, this big ring. It's called the Large Hadron Collider. And people over there, they don't speak science like the rest of us speak science. When they talk about speeds, they talk about speeds in terms of electron volts. And when they talk about mass, they talk about mass in terms of, electron volts. And they use all these weird things that you would never associate with mass and speed. They use all these other units for it because it makes more sense to them fundamentally. Because water just has nothing to do with what they're doing. And so in certain sciences, you will have certain units being used, And in physics, we're going to use these units because we're going to try to be consistent with the rest of the world so we can communicate with them. We're going to use the meter, which is a little bit longer than the yard. We're going to use the kilogram, which is about 2.2 pounds of weight on the gravitational field of the Earth. We're going to use seconds, which of course we know don't exist. And we're going to use amperes for current, and we're going to use a bunch of other things like volts for voltage and other things like this. And they're all interconnected to each other. They're all related to each other. The second has actually been given a standard, standard value. And this is an atomic clock that is being used right now to measure this. You're looking at this from the top down. So you're looking down this like 17, they say 30 feet tall, so I was going to say 17 meters, that's a little bit long. So it's like 12 meters-ish. 12 meters tall, and it's called a fountain clock because the cesium atoms are accelerated upward into the top of this thing, and then they're allowed to fall down, kind of like in a fountain. And as they fall down, they go through these vibrations, and these vibrations are always the same, supposedly. But since time doesn't exist, do we really know that? Okay, I'll stop there. I'll stop here. So anyway, as these cesium atoms come down, they all vibrate with the same frequency. So it's kind of like the swinging pendulum on a grandfather clock. That swinging pendulum, as long as it's going back and forth at the same frequency, which is pretty slow compared to these cesium atoms, it will keep time in the same way that it always has. Since these cesium atoms vibrate much, much faster, this clock is much more precise. So it can keep the seconds to a much, it can keep our clocks to a much finer degree of precision and accuracy. So this clock is used to set all clocks all around the world. All the clocks that are set on the internet and on cell phones and the military and nuclear missiles and satellites and all that stuff, they're taking their time from the cesium clock, which happens to be pretty close to us. It's over in Colorado, in University of Colorado. It's near the University of Colorado. It's at NIST in Colorado. They have another one, a better one, that I think they've already brought it online in Virginia right now. The interesting thing is, though, is that the kilogram has actually been given a standard amount of material. So they have this. Where did that? I thought they had a picture of it. But they have this little thing under glass, and it's made of platinum, I think, so that it doesn't decay, or gold or something like this. And this kilogram is just a certain amount of material that is determined to be the kilogram. Now, mass is an amount of material. It's not a weight of material, because weight depends on what's pulling on you. You know, your weight goes down. You want to lose weight? Go to the moon, right? Or the top of Mount Everest, or in the elevator. You can lose weight in the elevator, but you'll gain it again at the bottom. You can lose weight all kinds of different ways, but your mass stays the same because it's the amount of material. But when they recently took out their little kilogram mass, they discovered that it actually had less mass than before. And it just been in there so long that it had evaporated. And things that are solid eventually will evaporate a little bit, just like ice will lose a little. You see when the ice is out in the open, it has a little vapor above it. That's water that's subliming into gas. And that just happens. It happens with all solids, just much more slowly with the platinum. And so they actually had to remake their kilogram. So the kilogram is what we're going to use. The meter has actually been defined by physicists to be the distance that light travels in 1/299,792,458 of a second. In a vacuum. Why would they do that in a vacuum? Thank you. Why would they do that?
Because the speed of light is constant as far as we are aware.
That's right. There is a law that says that the speed of light is constant in a vacuum. And it doesn't matter where you're looking at it from. That's the really interesting thing.
In a vacuum?
In a vacuum, which means in open space where there's nothing. Where there's no atoms, no gases, no anything, right? So that's what vacuum. So they define the meter by that. The meter is about 39 inches, somewhere in there. But they defined it very exactly here. So, this is you should memorize this number. Just kidding. Just so you know, I do not require my students to memorize anything. Your exams will be open book. I do not allow notes on the exam, but you can take notes in your book all you want. You can put notes in the book let's see, how did it,
Is it contents plus?
I don't remember. I don't know if you can do it online with this one or not. No, you can't. To put notes in this book, you would have to either print it and write the notes in, or you would have to download it as a PDF and put the notes in on the PDF, which you can do as well. But I allow you to take notes in the book, but I do not allow you to take any separate notes into the exams.
So if we printed off the book and took notes into it, we could use that during our quizzes and exams?
You
Or we
could-
could do it on our computer and use the PDF.
Yes. I just don't want people trying to reproduce every single problem in their homework and just copy it off their exam. That just seems kind of worthless. So anyway, okay, so system international units, we have lots of prefixes, and we're going to get back to this again tomorrow when we meet. We're going to finish up this chapter tomorrow. But we use these prefixes, so like with the second, you can have a pitasecond, which is 10 to the 15 seconds. That's a lot of years, 30 million years, turns out. And you can have a terawatt. Watt is a measure of power, which is energy per time. And so you can have a terawatt, which is 10 to the 12 watts. Or gigahertz, which is a billion hertz. Hertz means vibration, right? So 1 hertz is a 1 vibration per second. 10 to the 9 is 1 billion vibrations per second, right? And we use scientific notation a lot in physics, so if you're not used to it, you should watch a video or two on YouTube about it, and you'll get some practice in this first homework with it. And if you're struggling with anything at all, and you can't get help for it, come to me. Don't just give up. Don't get frustrated. Don't say, I'm going to drop this class. It's driving me crazy. Come to me first, because I guarantee you I can help you, but you got to come to me right away, because we don't want to be a week and a half behind trying to catch you up. We'd rather just keep you up to date on things. So if anything bothers you, anything is giving you trouble, come to me right away, and we'll help you through it. I have a very good track record for people coming to me for help. So you go from giga to mega, we're going down, smaller. 10 to the third is the kilo, so a kilogram, kilometer, whatever. Most of the ones that we use in this class include the giga. So we use giga quite a bit, especially for gigahertz. Mega we use quite a bit, megavolts and mega. We don't use megameters very often, but kilometer we use a lot. We use kilometer, we use kilogram. We don't use the hecto very much, or the deca. But as we go down into things that are smaller than 1, so 1/100th of a meter is called the centimeter. We use that one quite a bit, obviously. Millimeters, 1/1000th of a meter. We use micrometers or micrometers, you don't even want to say it, 10 to the -6. And these units have funny abbreviations too. This U with this funny tail on the front is actually a mu from the Greek language, right? So you get to be Greek with me. And this is mu micrometers. And then the nanometers or nanograms, mostly we use nanometers or nanoseconds.
That's fine unit?
I'm sorry?
That's fine unit?
One more time?
Fine u.
5.
What's the first one you said, the Greek letter?
This one, mu.
Okay.
Yeah, mu it's just mu, mu.
Isn't a micrometer used like when you're measuring different parts in it, like small engines to make sure everything's lined up?
A micrometer is also an instrument that can measure to micrometers, can measure to micrometer measurements. It's a measurement. It's a device that has a little twisty handle on it, and that is also, the micrometer is also an instrument that is used. But then you have nano for a billionth. You have pico for a 1/10 to the 12 or 10 to the -12, and it gets even smaller, femto and everything else. So those prefixes are used all the time in this system that we are going to use. We're going a little bit late today because of all the technical difficulties. Usually we'll be done by now, but I want to finish up as much as we can today. One of the things that we do need to learn are conversions and conversion factors, okay? So converting numbers we do a lot of, and you'll get some practice with it here in class and also in homework. My favorite way to do conversions is to use this fractional method where you have this horizontal line as a fraction. A lot of people will do the slanted line, but I don't like that because It confuses the issues. What we're really doing here when we convert from 80 meters to kilometers is we're just multiplying by the number 1. Where's the number 1 in this little mathematical thing?
It's that second one, 1 kilometer over
Yeah.
1,000 meters.
This right here is equal to 1, right? 1 kilometer over 1,000 meters is the same distance over the same distance. So the same thing divided by the same thing, even if they're wearing different clothes, which they are, one of them's wearing the kilometer clothing, the other one's wearing the meter clothing, still just the number 1, right? And so that's all that conversion is. Conversion is just taking these things and multiplying by 1s over and over again. If you have to convert, 40 different things, you just multiply by 40 different 1s. And that's what you guys seem to have a handle on that. Let's take a look at some other things here really quick. This is kind of interesting. Present experimental limit to the smallest observable detail, 10 to the minus 18 meters, right? That's the smallest thing that we can resolve or detect, right? We don't really image it, but we have it. We resolve it. For masses, the mass of an electron, 10 to the minus 30. So that's the smallest thing we've been able to measure so far. Time, 10 to the minus 23, the time for light to cross a proton. They're pretty tiny. If we had temperatures, does anybody know how small the smallest temperature would be?
0 Kelvin.
But we haven't been there yet.
Right, so it's 0.002.
That's the one that I had in my lab.
Temperature is technically it measures molecular vibration, and isn't it theorized if you hit 0 Kelvin, whatever hit 0 Kelvin ceases to exist?
Well, it ceases to move. It will stop.
And then doesn't it cease to exist?
Well, what will happen is it will exist in a very different state of matter. And we don't know what that state of matter is yet. But if you get close to it, you exist in a state of matter called the Bose-Einstein condensate. And the first Bose-Einstein condensate to be created was created at about 10 to the minus 7, I think, Kelvin. So 0.0000001. 001. Anyway, a millionth, a tenth of a millionth of a Kelvin.
We've taken it below 0 Kelvin.
No, that's just above Kelvin. That's a millionth of a Kelvin.
So
a tenth of a millionth.
We got close enough to Kelvin to create a boson.
That's right.
Einstein condensate.
That's right, and you can only really do it in certain. It has to be in what's called it has to be in a particle that's considered a boson.
What's a boson?
Something for a topic for another class.
Okay.
It's a particle that has certain characteristics that allow us to do this, and so and named after Bose, the scientist Bose, who also has a stereo company named after him. Believe it or not, same guy. This state of matter is a state of matter where you get so cold that you're almost stopped. Things are moving at less than a few centimeters per second, which is really slow for atoms. Atoms are usually moving at hundreds or even thousands of meters per second at normal temperatures. Even things that are solid, they're vibrating that quickly. So it's very interesting, the smallness that we can get to with these measurements. Biggest measurements right here, distance from the Earth to the edges of the known universe, 10 to the 26 meters. That's how far we've looked out with the Hubble Space Telescope. The next telescope that we're looking out with will be the James Webb Telescope. It's going up next year, I think. It's like 10 times bigger than the Hubble Space Telescope, and it's really cool because it's like origami. It goes up in this package that's smaller than the Hubble Space Telescope. Then when it gets up there, it just like unfolds into this huge flower. It's really cool looking. But that telescope will be able to look even further back. You know what the really interesting thing is? I'm going to talk about time one more time. I'll probably tell you once again. The further we look out into space, the further we're looking back into time. Because that light takes so long for us. We're looking, right now, the Hubble Space Telescope can look, I think, 10 billion light years away. So it can see things that takes light 10 billion years to travel. That means that the light that we're seeing from those things that are 10 billion light years away, it took that light 10 billion years to get to us. That means we're looking back in time 10 billion years. Well, the galaxy, the entire universe is only 14 billion years old, 13.8, something like that. And they know that. That's something they've been able to measure. But, right here, age of the universe, 10 to the 8. So anyway, that's not 10 billion or 14 billion. Oh, that's in seconds.
Okay.
Like, wait a second. That's not in seconds. That's not in years. That's in seconds. Okay. So anyway, so this next telescope will be able to look back to almost probably 12, 13 billion. I mean, almost the beginning of the universe. We should be able to see like the Big Bang, like the remnants, like the leftovers. Yes.
So theoretically, could like a whole universe just not be there? But since that remnants is there,
Theoretically, if you could look far enough out there, you could see before the universe was created. Theoretically.
What would you even see?
Well, there wouldn't be light yet.
You're asking the wrong physicist. Remember, I was an atomic physicist. I was looking at little things. I wasn't looking at the universe. But that's certainly a question for a specialist. I mean, if we asked Stephen Hawking that question, he'd certainly have an answer for you. Or if you asked my favorite physicist, Richard Feynman, he'd probably have an answer for you.
It would probably be sarcastic, but
Yeah, he'd be really honored about it. But my favorite scientists are always the honored ones. Okay, let's do a real quick conversion, really quick. We've got a speed here. We've got an average speed. I always forget to read the problem. What's the problem? We're 10 kilometers from our university, and we get there in 20 minutes. We're going to calculate our average speed in kilometers per hour, meters per second, and furlongs per fortnight. Just kidding. Okay, so average speed is distance over time. We haven't learned that yet, but now you have. Congratulations. Your first physics. Well, actually, we did talk about that. So anyway, 10 kilometers over the 20 minutes, right? So apparently we're going 0.5 kilometers per minute. But that's not in the standard units. The standard units for distance are meters, and the standard units for time are seconds. So we're going to convert that. First of all, we're going to convert it into kilometers per hour, and then we're going to convert it into meters per second. I think that's what we're doing. Let's see what we're doing. Yeah. So here's our conversion that we're going to do for kilometers per minute to kilometers per hour. Right? You have kilometers per minute, and then you have 1 hour per 60 minutes. Notice that the thing we're doing here. What are we trying to do? Well, we do kilometers per minute times 1 hour per 60 minutes. Is this going to give us what we want? No, because when we multiply, we're going to get kilometers and hours on the top and minutes squared on the. That's no good. That's not a speed. What do we want to happen over here with these minutes?
You want kilometers per hour, right?
Yeah, well, what do we want these minutes to do to each other?
You want minutes on the
Yes,
top.
we need to flip this over so that the minutes cancel out, right? And then we replace the minutes with hours. So that's the thing to always look for, and that's why I like this format where we have the fractions with these horizontal lines, because then you can easily see what's going to cancel, what's not going to cancel. So we use a different thing. Oh, here we go. Oh, they
did it up above that one.
Oh, they
That
did
was
it.
how you check your work.
So, well, anyway, I like that one for example. Why not to do it? Is this what they did? Yeah. Oh, here we go. So here we have our speed in kilometers per minute. Now we've got it right? We've got our minutes over minutes. Now we're going to get kilometers per hour when these minutes cancel. That's nice. That's what we want. And then we get there. Sometimes I move too fast for my own good. Now, in this one, we're going to convert now from our 30 kilometers per hour into meters per second, right? And we've got two things to convert this time. We've got kilometers to convert and hours. We'll do hours first, and we want to get rid of the hours, so we put the hours on the top over here, and it's 3,600 seconds per hour. Hours will cancel, and we're going to end up dividing 30 by 3,600. We'll go ahead and do the kilometers at the same time. We want the kilometers to cancel out, so we put kilometers on the bottom over here to cancel out with that one on top. 1,000 meters on top per kilometer, and we just end up multiplying 30 times 1,000 divided by 3,600, and we get 8.33 meters per second. So, conversion. Any questions about conversion? You guys seem to have a handle on that, so I'm assuming we're good. Okay. If you do have any questions and you're not feeling like you can speak up, which happens a lot in this class, unfortunately, if you're feeling like everybody's understanding something you're not, I suggest one of two things. speak up, because probably you're not the only one misunderstanding something, and probably somebody else is going, oh, I don't understand that, but I don't want to speak up either. You guys seem pretty outspoken, so I'm not too worried about that, but it's always a probability in class like this. Or email me right after class, or stay after class, and we can talk about it, because I don't want anyone to fall behind because they're not feeling like they understand things. When I'm up here in front of class, I move fairly quickly because we have a lot to cover, and I know that people don't like speaking up during class, so I try not to make too big of a deal of it all the time. When I'm in my other classroom, I have a bunch of whiteboards and we'll do a lot more activities, but in this classroom, we don't really have those tools. Maybe I should bring my whiteboards over here. We'll probably do some more, we'll do some exercises like that where we're working in groups and doing problems together and explaining things to each other. But when I'm just up here showing examples and talking about things, speak up if you have a question. Don't be afraid to, because probably you're not the only one. Next time, since we're done today, next time we will get into accuracy, precision, significant figures, some other things that we have to talk about. Things that are important, but we're not going to stress too much in this class because we're more interested in learning the physics than we are in getting the scientific measurement stuff correct. But we will talk about it a little bit next time. We'll finish up this chapter, and we may even get started a little bit on chapter 2, but we'll definitely go through the homework and answer any questions you have. So get started on the homework. Write down any questions you have, send me emails, do everything you need to do. And unless anyone has any questions before we close up for today, we'll be done. Are there any questions that anybody wants to bring up?
So the homework from what's the website again?
My Open Math. So you go to My Open Math here, and let's see, we're in physics. And the nature of science and physics is the homework. There are 15 questions on this assignment. Most of them about the metric system and scientific units, scientific notation, a little bit about geometry and math in general, but just some stuff to kind of get us started, get us used to using My Open Math, and also make sure that we understand some of the preliminary things we need to know. We'll try to get through this as quickly as possible, and we'll move on to chapter 2, because chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, they're a little more intense, a lot more intense. So we're going to be jumping into this with 2 feet. Any other questions? Okay. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Any questions at all from Broken Bow before I disconnect here? Yeah. So we'll meet. What we'll do is we'll meet every day for lecture, unless the day before I say we're not going to meet and we're going to have lab. So tomorrow, if we've decided we've gotten along far enough, I'll either say we're going to meet tomorrow for lecture if we need more time in the book, or I'll say we'll do lab tomorrow, and then we'll meet for that. Okay? That's correct. I will give you at least a labs if you want to do the lab at home. So if we're going to do the lab Wednesday, I'll tell you tomorrow, and then you can do the lab at home. Okay? All right. No problem. We'll see you.
So do we need to have the homework done, or are we supposed to work on for tomorrow?
Ideally, you will have worked on every problem so that you at least kind of have an idea of what